My name is Sasha, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a sales representative for a company. I have a 32-year-old husband, Kyle, and 2 children, a small son named Andrew and a daughter, Anne. Kyle is an office worker who goes home on time. He picks up our children from daycare after work and does the house chores at night. However, recently, my relationship with Kyle is not going too well. I'm often away from home on business trips because of my job. Kyle doesn't like that, and when I come home, he continues to make petty complaints and we end up fighting. This caused our marriage life to be a little awkward. I'm home. One night, when I come home from a business trip, Kyle says this.
You're late. What took you so long? You must be busy, but I'm exhausted from looking after the kids.
My husband suddenly blew up at me. Don't be so sarcastic. It's not like I go to business trips because I want to.
Why don't you come home early sometime and play with the kids? They're always looking for you and asks for their mother.
I don't know what to say to that, but I have work. Quite a while ago, you were the one who told me to not worry about the kids because you'd be the one looking after them since you'd come home earlier. And for that, I give you the weekends off, and I always play with them on the weekend. Don't make it sound like I'm always ignoring our kids.
Well, I'm not saying that you're abandoning your kids. I'm only saying that you need to focus a little more on your family.
I know it's hard, but you've taken on the responsibility of taking care of the kids, so don't try to take back what you've said. Like this, every time I come home, there is an argument over the kids. I was in a state where I could hardly find a place to rest my mind. I felt like the stress was building up from all the complaints at work and the horrible comments made at me from my husband at home. Then one day, when I happened to be home, Kyle's phone, which was on the table, rang. I wonder who it's from. I looked at it and saw a message that looked like it came from a woman. What's this? It's not from his work, right? But I didn't really check what the message said. At the time, I thought it was probably from a friend and didn't take it too seriously. Little did I know that this would later turn out to be a big trouble. I still regret that I should have questioned my husband at the time so that my children would not have had to go through such a painful experience. In midst of all this, I had to go on a business trip away from home again. This time, it was going to be a long trip, 4 days and 3 nights. A meeting for a large project I was to take on was to be held at the headquarters of our client's company. This is a great opportunity for me to also build my career. Of course, I had told Kyle in advance, but our relationship had cooled down and we were not talking much, so we often decided to ignore each other. Before I leave for the business trip, I tell the kids, I'll do my best with work.
Mom, please play with us once you come home. I love you, Mom, because you play with us a lot on your days off after work.
The kids can't seem to wait for me to come home. My children are my first priority, and to be honest, Kyle's income is small and we cannot make ends meet without my hard work. I work for my children, and it is because of this that I'm able to work so hard. When I get back home, I will definitely play with the kids first. With this in mind, I headed for my business trip. The meeting went smoothly. As a result of my presentation, the client was satisfied and agreed with our proposal and gave us the permission to proceed with our service. When I reported the results to my boss, he praised me for doing a good job. Now, I could go home and see my kids without any worries. or so I thought. I was about to return home in the evening, exhausted from work. And that is when I received a call on my cell phone. Hello? I'm calling from the daycare center. Your kids have been absent for 4 days. Are there any problem with your kids? What? I tried to contact your husband every day, but he hung up the phone after saying that they were fine. I got a little worried, so I contacted you. That's strange. If the kids caught fever or anything unusual, Kyle would have called me like before. I called Kyle immediately, but his phone seemed to be disconnected. I had a bad feeling. I hurried home. When I arrived home, I immediately noticed something strange. All the furniture had been moved out and the house was empty. Huh? What? What is the meaning of this? I entered the house, looked around the room, and was in shock. To my horror, our kids were sleeping together in an empty bedroom on the floor. You must be joking. I immediately woke them up.
Oh, Mom, you're home. I'm hungry.
Both Andrew and Anne hugged me tightly. Where the hell is Kyle? I quickly took out my cell phone and called Kyle, but no matter how many times I called, I couldn't get through to him. I kept calling and calling, and finally, he answered the call.
What?
I heard Kyle's grouchy voice. What do you mean, what? What is the meaning of this? The house is empty and the kids are left behind? I don't understand. Where the hell are you?
Oh, now? I'm in the new house with my girlfriend.
My husband says in a flat tone. Yes, it was like as if he was just talking about the weather, like, oh, it's raining today. Huh? I could feel my brain refusing to comprehend what Kyle was saying to me. Girlfriend? A new house? He left the kids behind and went to his girlfriend? What do you mean, girlfriend? You mean that you've been cheating on me this whole time? I raised my voice and Kyle sighed.
Well, I'm fine with that interpretation. Anyways, I'm not going back there. I can't take care of the kids anymore. I took all the furniture, but I left the kids there.
What? I was speechless. Cheating and abandoning the kids. This is not just a cruel treatment to me anymore. It was also a cruel treatment for the kids too. The kids were hungry and crying. Anyways, you better get your butt over here soon.
The kids were just sleeping. If you're back from your business trip, you take care of them.
I felt as if the blood vessels in my head had snapped. You've got to be kidding me! How dare you say such a horrible, cruel thing after leaving such small kids behind with no one to take care of them?
You can say whatever you want. I don't want to take care of those kids anymore. See ya.
With that, Kyle hung up the phone. Later on, Anne got a fever, so we took her to the hospital.
I'm glad that you came home early.
I see. I was relieved when the doctor examined her.
But why did your husband leave the kids behind?
The doctor asked me as a simple question, but there was no way I could say that my own husband had abandoned me and the kids and ran off to be with the woman whom he was having an affair with. I just gave a vague answer and left the hospital. I was so angry that I wondered if there was any way I could blame Kyle for his irrational behavior. I couldn't imagine living with him anymore, so I decided to consult a lawyer for future consideration. Once the lawyer heard my story, he began to say this. That's terrible. Leaving the young kids unattended, all on their own. It also smells like a crime. He said that as he raised his eyebrows. So, you don't know where your husband is? Yes, he seems to have turned off his phone. I understand. For now, we need to find your husband's whereabouts. Let's ask a friend of mine to help us. The lawyer was kind enough to help and support me with my case. I took some time off from work and pondered while taking care of the kids and while the detective agency's investigation proceeded. Kyle had never been proactive in taking care of the kids. However, I never thought that he would treat them that badly. No matter what the excuse is, he shouldn't have done what he did to his own kids. And plus, he was having an affair. When did he find his girlfriend? Was he always flirting and being with her even when I was on a business trip and leaving the kids all alone at home? While thinking this, I got goosebumps all over my body and my anger took over. I could never forgive him ever again. He must get what he deserves. That's what I thought to myself. Kyle didn't run or hide, so his whereabouts were immediately known. He lives in an apartment in the neighboring town with a woman whom he is having an affair with. Kyle commutes to work from there. His girlfriend is a bartender at a bar, and apparently she's divorced twice, but she has no children. On Saturdays and Sundays, when my husband was free from taking care of the kids, he would go out to play darts in the bar, and he started going over to that bar frequently. And as you can imagine, he left the kids at home while I was on a business trip and started having an affair. His girlfriend was in debt, so she had her eyes on Kyle's salary, not only asking money for his drinks, but also asking money for her living expenses. I knew that Kyle had a really shallow thought, but I had never expected it to go this far. I looked up into the air in despair. On the evening of the day we discovered his whereabouts, I visited the apartment with my lawyer. When we knocked on the door, Kyle showed up. His girlfriend seemed to have gone out to work for the night and was not there.
Oh, so it's you.
Kyle glared at me as he said that. What you did is a crime. Can't you understand that? I suddenly cut to the chase. The lawyer also explained the importance of my legal responsibility as a parent to protect my children and the best way forward for our marriage, but it seemed like Kyle could no longer hear me.
I know. But I couldn't stand to take care of the kids anymore. I just wanted my own freedom.
Kyle was truly pathetic, and what he said was very unacceptable. To begin with, there are many men in this world who are raising several children by themselves. I take care of them all on weekends. And what's so hard about taking care of your own kids for a few hours after work during the week? And if it is hard, how is that a reason to cheat on me and leave the house? What you're saying is an excuse. What you're just doing is whining and complaining. Did you plan to become a criminal and run away if something happened to your kids? Did you think that life would go on like that?
How could I think that? If you, a woman, had stayed home to raise the kids in the first place, there would have been no problem.
What the hell is he going on about? I was completely appalled. I'm not doing anything wrong. I looked at my husband, who was unwilling to break his position, and gave up, thinking that he would never change. I don't regret having the kids, but I think marrying you, Kyle, was the biggest mistake of my life. Anyone who has no problem disrespecting the life of a child is not a human being.
Call me whatever you want. Now, I have my freedom to actually live my life.
Does he have no sense of guilt or remorse whatsoever? I was so stunned by Kyle's behavior that I was disgusted by his problematic words and actions. My parents-in-law, shocked by their own son's action, who had neglected the kids and run off with a woman, came running to me and got down on their knees to apologize. It was not their fault, but I accepted their sincere apology. It was my parents who were furious. Of course, they have the right to be furious. Who wouldn't be angry when their adorable grandchildren were left unattended for long periods of time? However, I offered to settle the case myself and asked my parents to stand back. After a long discussion with my lawyer, I decided to file a civil suit against Kyle and the woman with whom he had been having an affair, with a view to criminal charges for neglecting the kids. During the preliminary arrangements, Kyle refused to acknowledge the lawsuit. At the main trial, he admitted that he had left the kids behind, but he evaded, saying that he didn't intend to put the kids in danger. I stared blankly at the courtroom exchange. How could I have let this happen? I slowly thought back to the time when I met Kyle. When we first got married, Kyle was kind. He was a good person who respected my opinion, even though he was a bit of a pain in the ass. But after we got married and had kids, his attitude changed. Kyle did not like children in the first place, and I couldn't really realize that part about him. The trial didn't take long, and I won the case. Then, the police got involved and began to proceed to investigate the incident. My husband was questioned and charged as abandonment of kids under protective custody, and since it was his first offense, the charges were dropped. But this was a de facto conviction. I took this opportunity to ask Kyle for a divorce. Now, I would never see him again. After that, my parents, who were worried about their grandchildren, came to visit us frequently. The kids seemed to really enjoy seeing their grandparents, which was the best thing that could happen to them.
That was a tough time for you. I am so glad that they are safe now.
My mother looks back at me with a relieved smile. My father was still very angry, and he lashed out at Kyle at every opportunity. I also filed a claim for the damages against Kyle's girlfriend, but what was she going to do about it? It seems like she closed the bar, fled the apartment in the night, and I have no idea where she has been since then. I heard that Kyle was fired from his job after the incident and is now living alone in a run-down apartment. Either way, it is none of my business anymore. This huge incident was a shocking event in my life. I had never imagined that Kyle would abandon the kids and run off with a woman whom he was having an affair with. I realized that no one, not even you, can predict what can happen in your life. As I thought that to myself, over time, something had happened which caused my life to turn around. As you may have guessed, I was proposed for a marriage again. He is one of my colleagues from the same company I worked at. He had been concerned about what had happened to me and had been watching over me. I was shocked and mentally distressed, but I was able to maintain my peace of mind by talking to him about it, and I gradually became attracted to him. I took the courage and asked him to be my boyfriend, and he accepted, knowing that I had 2 kids. Unlike Kyle, he loves and adores the kids. The kids also liked his kindness, and they adored him too, and we got married sometime after that. And few years later, I asked both of my kids, who are now a little older, about Kyle. They both vaguely remembered him, but they told me what they remembered is that Kyle had ignored them and kept on watching the TV even when the kids got hungry. Never underestimate the kids. They remember particularly about shocking or traumatizing events, including how they felt at the time. Perhaps it was a very traumatic experience for them. We have to raise our own children with responsibility. As I gazed at my kids playing with their new father in the park, I thought about the life that lay ahead.